Good morning, everyone. Let's talk about returning to the corporeal world, something each one of us has gone through a few times. And today is time to stop and think about things that we did to be here today. Let's start talking about the miracle of life. No matter what specific religions, beliefs you have, it's an amazing accomplishment in life. From a science point of view, from a religious point of view, it is magical. For the ones that have kids, a special event in life. But for us, Spiritists, we know that the birth of a child involves a lot more. It's a chance for the parents not only give guidance to a child. The parents need to help the kid with the morals that the spirit that's incarnating is going to need, especially to repair something that was done in the past. There is a relationship between the parents and the children. There is a story behind. So for us Spiritists, we know that a lot more is evolved when we talk about birth. So today we'll talk about something that's involved in this Spiritist return to Earth. But before we continue, we need to all come to an agreement. We're all evolving. I think here is even another religious, or even someone that has no religious belief, we know that we come as little babies. And throughout life, our journey, we keep on evolving every day. And for us, we know that the major goal of us is to reach close to perfection, is to become pure souls. So if we now have to go and evolve and reach an angel state of being, of course one life is not enough. In one life we barely learn a couple of languages if you come to Canada. Because if you're in Brazil, probably only Portuguese. So one life is not enough. And the beautiful thing about reincarnation is that it's a gift that's given to us to accomplish a state of almost pure and perfection soul. So reincarnation is a gift that's given to us that will empower us through the troubles of life to reach something better. We need every year we have a planning in the end of the year. What can I do next year? We set goals every year. Is that right? We look back on what we did and we plan ahead for the next year. It can be a diet, it can be a volunteer we're going to do, but you always plan something better for the next year. And the same happens to us, to our life in the corporeal world. So it is necessary a planning, and that's what we're going to talk. Yeah, I tried to get a most complicated graphic could find. Because with all that's involved in a life, it can get very complicated to plan for that. If we're having a simple dinner Saturday night for couple of friends, 3 to 5 people, we have to plan when we're gonna go grocery shopping, what they're gonna eat. There is a vegetarian coming, how many kids are coming, time, make an agreement with everyone that when the dinner is gonna happen. If we're gonna go on a trip, look at tickets, we have to pack, we have to look at the currency, how much money we're gonna bring. If you're planning a wedding, a lot is involved. Oh, someone is smiling. So if you're planning a wedding, you know how complex that can be. If you're responsible for a big corporation and you're gonna have meeting with a meeting with your employees, you have to plan how you're gonna talk. So if you know we're gonna incarnate into life, there is so much that's involved when planning that life, and sometimes we take it for granted. But the spiritual life also needs plans for everything, planning for everything that's gonna happen. It's not just a matter of, okay, let's put that spirit in a body and he's going to take care of himself of everything. No, it's more complicated than that. And depending on what you're going to do, you plan certain things. When planning for a next corporeal life, we have one main focus that we have to achieve by the end of the meeting, when we have a project for that. And the main focus is the spiritual progress. So the whole planning for the life that's going to come is based on this progress that we have to give in the end of the if the process goes successfully. That's the main goal of the creatures. So if you were to plan someone else's life, if spiritual team came to me and said, Catarina, you're going to plan Marcio's life. Can you imagine that type of responsibility? Can you imagine doing that type of job? It does take skills to do that. We're going to have questions of, okay, when is it all going to be decided? What conditions decide, for example, when he's going to return? What's it going to be? What are we going to be when we incarnate? We have to think about that. Who's going to decide that Marcio was going to marry Raquelzinha, who's not here today? What criteria are used to define his parents? So many other questions, so many details. It's not as simple as you may think of. If incarnating is to make you better, incarnation has a purpose to fix some things that happened in the past. So the next life, it has to have a relation to what we did before, right? So we have to take into considerations everything that Marcio did in his life, or each one of you here. We have to take into consideration some people that he interacted with, things that he did in the past. It's not as simple. So if you think about planning, and we know that certain parameters are going to have to be fixed or close to it, right? Defined. So planning for the reincarnation. What would we say that could be planned? Any example? I just said a couple of things about Marcio. You can say anything. What do you think is planned for sure in life?
Parents.
Friends.
Parents.
Oh, sorry, parents.
Your physical appearance, the way you look like.
Exactly, your physical body, very important.
The place.
Sorry?
The place where you're gonna be born.
The place where you're going to be born. Sorry? When you're going to be born. So a few things are planned for sure. As we said, the family. We need to know the main core of the family, as we know, are the closest. It's like the next subject we have to accomplish in our university. So that's the main thing you have in life. It's deal with them. It's either learn, repair, help. So the main family is one of the first things that we plan in life. One of the most important. Sometimes ones that we don't want to even think about it. Some families that don't really get along. I don't want to know what happened in my last life because I cannot deal with this one. It's not easy. So if you think about family, sometimes we think, for example, oh, he's so shy, just like his father. Oh, he's so smart. he got that from his mother. And in Spiritism, it's not like that. The genetic side, yes, we may get the skin color, the color of the eyes. But the psychological characteristics, they don't come from our parents. They come from us. And there is a synergy of sympathy and who you are that connects you with the parents. We have friends here in this life that we don't really get along. And maybe it's going to go to a certain degree that in the next life we're going to come together, probably in the same family. So the characteristics that brought us together in the next family has nothing to do with genetics. It has nothing to do with what we inherited from our genes, genetic family. So family it's a setup based on not physical parameters. So the planning is not, the genetics is not involved in here. It fascinates me sometimes to look around and observe my family, some other families. And I always wonder, and I always make a little novel in my mind. What could have happened? Like, why are those two together as a couple? Like, what brought them together? Or you see someone that has a bad relation with one of the parents. It's not, you see, it's just little. The mother has sometimes a preference on the child and really dislike the other one. Where does it come from? So it always interests me to look around and pay attention to those little details, right? Everything makes sense. And if you stop and look, you see that you can get so much information from past life without being a technical person on the subject. Because everything is right there, it's right here. If you look around, and if you want to really get to know yourself, you will understand things that happened in the past. And it only makes sense when you, yeah, probably I did that, or probably I've passed through something like that. It brings we, as much as we get to know ourselves, we understand more of the setup of the family that we have around us. As we said here, something else that's planned, the body, the physical body. So here's the guy and the angels helping him, the spiritual guides. Look at the one that he's going to get. Can you imagine? Why would that happen? There's a whole list of, things that were done in the past. It's all written here and in his conscious. And as a result, this is the one. Next life. So the body has a lot to do sometimes with things that we did in the past. Some disease. I have a friend, I don't know if I mentioned that, he was like, I smoke. And you know what? When I go to the test, a company came to my office to do, wellness type of planning. And he was the one that had the best cardio exercise. And he smokes 3 cigarettes a day. And he was like, why am I going to quit smoking? And in my mind, I was like, guess what's going to happen to the next planning for a body for him? Because he's intaking everything into his perispirit that's really connected to our spirit. So maybe the physical body is taking its time to show any results. And that's not just with smoking, it's with everything. It's kind of like we're planning the next life already, sometimes, most of the time, right? So the physical body is it tells a lot about us, especially recurrent diseases, and especially things that you're born with. You're born because, as we said, you don't skip a subject in a school. It's all falling in sequence. So it's like just another day. Maybe we forgot what we did in the day before, but it's all just a sequence of our own life. When I talk about a new life, it's a new corporeal life, because life is just one. You wake up, you have a life, you discarnate, you have another life next time, So it's all cycles of one line that keeps on going, going and going until we reach evolution. So what else that's planned? I give a hint when I thought that you said friends. I don't know about you, but I have come to encounter people, especially here, that I know for sure it was planned. I think for us that leave the family and the secure home, when we find someone here that's like a hook for us in this country, right? We find someone that it's like a mother. I found someone that's like a mother to me here. And a connection that I have with her, and I had never met her, it's gotta have been planned before. So I'm sure if you pay attention to those little things, you see you've met this person already. And as we said, places that we're gonna go. For sure, and we're gonna talk, is gonna be the next slide. We plan some special events are planned in our life. I know for sure that coming to Canada for me, for example, was an event that's planned. Was planned before. So events, they're planned, some of them. Someone that's lost everything out of the blue. Boom. It's a big lesson you're gonna have to go through. It's not coincidence. Something so dramatic doesn't really happen without a reason. The more you feel, for sure, more certain you are, it was planned. If you go too easy, things sometimes you don't pay attention. But the more dramatic, in a good way or in a bad way, for sure it was planned. A loss of someone, especially when it's reverse. You're losing a child. Time says parents go first. But when the reverse happens, it's time to go through the grieving and try to, again, study yourself. Why would that happen to someone? So I go through life myself, and I watch those things happening. And I wonder why. As I said, places you go. Like was given an opportunity for you to come to Canada. For some of us, suddenly we meet at TSS. And here I am studying to try to put something together on a Sunday. The nice weather. And I'm here. He's here every Wednesday. Everybody here, most of us, have a commitment. So things, if you feel it, if you pay attention, you get messages all the time about things that happened before. So events are something else that was planned for us. And the next question will be, who plans? I didn't plan anything for Marcio. I wouldn't be so nice. I'm kidding. So, who does the planning? I won't say everybody, but usually there is a mentor behind. Usually there is someone that knew and studied what happened before, someone that's been following us right now, watching us through. Catarina shouldn't have done that. It's going to be on the book. So by the end, when it's time to plan, remember the book of the guy choosing the body? Someone's going to look at it. Someone very capable of doing it will study what happened and together with the soon to incarnate, make a planning for his life. And the plan is going to be based, as we mentioned, in things that we know that happened in the past. How much can we decide on that? Do you think everybody will decide? If I have a mentor here planning, what will make me decide more or less on my life? First, if you think about the first incarnations, the spirits, we didn't even know we're incarnating, right? So the incarnation is almost like imposed to us, just like the parents. The baby is being shaken over there. He never asked for that, but it's nice. The mother knows it's nice. The mother knows how to feed, when to feed. There are doctors that tell the mother what to give to the child. So the child right now has no idea what's going on. And the same is as in the first stages of evolution. We're just, put in a body and follow without choosing much on what to do. But the more we evolve our knowledge and moral values, we get to choose and plan and give more inputs with the planning that we're going through. Does that make sense? Right? So if I were to say those are the two major influences that we have to be able to choose what's going to have next. And what would be something that would decrease the amount of input we could bring to the... Because it's not because I'm not in my primitive state. I might have had lots of lives. So you'd think, well, now I'm ready to choose a little bit more. But for example, if I keep on doing the same mistake, I have an opportunity to incarnate here and I screw up again. So it's taking out of my budget of inputs for the next planning. So if you keep on doing the same mistake, we're not going to be able to have a conversation with the boss of the big company, the CEO. We need to get to a level of understanding of life, and it's a merit. You have to own it. You have to own it as well. In some cases, as we mentioned, you can't really decide for anything. If you're a rebel, you couldn't care less about anything. The parents know you need help. The spirituality knows you need some help onto that, but you can't choose. You're not going to be able to. So it's going to be imposed to you, or if depends on what you did, you get to a stage of a mental disturb that you're not capable of choosing anything for you. And again, the spirituality will help you on doing that. Sometimes, for this case, in the book Missionaries of Light, it's clear examples of the reincarnation planning. And we have the incarnation of Sigismundo. He knows he's going to go to that family. The mentors, they take him to the family overnight. They introduce the family that you're going to be part of. So somehow he's participating and interacting actually with the family that he's going to come to the next life. So it's very complex. No incarnation planning is the same. And a lot can happen during this process. The incarnation in the book, for example, is someone that he killed the father. His future father. He killed in another life. So he's coming and visiting a guy that there is a competition between them. So it's necessary time. It's necessary understanding and evolving in the spiritual life for everything to happen. It's not just let's plan and let's do it. There's sentiment involved. There are emotions involved. And the choice of trials. What the difficult moments we're going to have to go through in life. How do we choose that? For sure we don't pick a happy life, because if you plan a perfect life, you wouldn't learn nothing. Right? So it doesn't make sense. So we should own everything that's happening right now. Because it makes sense. most of the difficulties we have right now, if it's not a result of what you're doing wrong in this life, it makes sense. Own it. Understand. It's time for us to look at ourselves, and the more we know ourselves, more we understand, and more we, blessed are the afflicted, because we understand why we are going through some troubles. So the more we understand those trials we choose, or they choose for us, everything only makes sense. It takes elevated people with moral values to plan a life, a family, a job, a career, a place for you to live, everything that you have. It takes a whole team of work for you to be here. So nothing happens because you don't deserve something bad, especially. So I put a couple of questions here. If the Spirit has the choice of the kind of trials which he will undergo, does it follow that all the tribulations we experience in the earthly life have been foreseen and chosen by? So mainly, everything that we go is planned? Every single detail? No, it's like a trip. We plan the main things. We're going to go to Europe. You have planned, you have the tickets. You don't know how the weather is going to be. You don't know the people you're going to meet. You don't know the troubles you're going to go through in life. So it says, it will not be corrected to say that such has been the case with all of them. If, for instance, a spirit has chosen to be born among malefactors, he knows, therefore, the nature of the vicissitudes which he will encounter. But he does not know whether these will present themselves under one form or another. So can you imagine planning and coming into a dangerous favela in Brazil? You know it's not going to be difficult, but you don't know how you're going to react to it. That's why we're all crying, we're so sad when we die. But sometimes, as we saw in the movie Nosso Lar, when we have to incarnate, it's a crying moment too. It's almost like, well, you're dying there too. Or worse, like you're not even dying, you're going to go through difficulties. So incarnating, sometimes it's not as beautiful as we see from this side. You don't know how you're going to react. That's when you're going to test yourself. It's a lesson you have to do. God help us, and this, the spiritual team to help us going through for an example like that in the best way possible. But it's not as easy. Based on the previous question, and I think we talked about that, how can a spirit choose to be born among those who are leading a bad life? To this end, there must be a correspondence between the imperfection of which he desires to free. So, if he chooses to be born in something that's bad, it's because there is something bad in us we need to fix. That's the only way we're going to be able to see it. And the social surroundings into which he is born. For example, if he has to struggle against the instinct of robbery, it's necessary for him to be thrown among robbers. Right? It makes me think about everyone complaining about corruption in Brazil. Do we have the right to complain so hard? Politically, yes. But again, if you stop and analyze the place we chose, why? In other worse countries, where women suffer so much still until today, if you stop to analyze, you get to know yourself more and more, and it helps you to overcome the difficulties, because again, everything makes sense. Does it not seem natural to choose the trials that are the least painful, right? From your point of view, it would seem to be so, but not from that of the spirit. When he's freed from the material world, his illusions cease and he thinks differently. Isn't that amazing? We study, we go to school, university, we get honors, and we know nothing. it takes us for us to discarnate, go to the spiritual world to realize what life really was. So surprisingly, once we get there, once we're free from the material side, we finally get to give the values of things in life that we didn't do. Unfortunately, society doesn't help us. We focus on looking good, owning things that everybody has or better than that. If you don't have something that most of people have, you don't feel good about it. You want to be better in a way that's not really what we should be looking for. So for us as Spiritists, we should point ourselves into the right meaning of life. And I'm sure we do. If we're here, it's because we're pointing into that direction. And these presentations like today is just like a recall. It's just a call again on the path. We all know. But the more we listen to it, the more we're in a state that we still need meetings like that, meetings like Wednesdays and Thursdays. We need, because when we go outside, the pressure to do the other things is so much. We forget. We forget who we really are. And we really are the spirit before incarnating. This is just a stage. So it's time for us to really remember who we are. What our plan was. Search for it. If you look, you'll find in your heart and in your mind the plan we made to be here. Some careers we chose here. Maybe the career you haven't even realized you have yet. The main goal of us coming here is to evolve, but also help everyone to evolve, help this planet to evolve. If we all can evolve together, it's going to be much faster. So we need to know, what is it for me to do here in this life? What am I doing with my life to start off? We don't need to be so harsh, but we need to think about that. Sometimes we wake up, go to work, take kids to work, go to the office or whatever. It's just so busy that we lose track of the main point. Only when we get there, it's when we realize, oh, wait a second, what did I do? So let's keep on meeting with people that want to evolve so we don't forget about our task. Right? And at what moment the soul unites the body? Anybody? Conception. Right there. That's where it begins. And again, so much is evolved. But at that very moment, with a little piece of nothing, a whole soul is connected to a physical little something. And it finishes, the whole incarnation process is from conception to birth. It's from that moment we see here to the first cry of the baby. The whole planning, the process, the major project, that's the time life. From there to the cry. The moment baby cries, it's official. He has incarnated. Because until then, at this very moment, the spirit is, in average, fully aware. Some spirits, they know incarnation is coming. Even if it wasn't imposed to him, somehow we know. Somehow we know we're going to incarnate. Or if it was planned, we know for sure. So, you know the silver cord we talk about that connects us to the body? That cord is created right there. And as the pregnancy goes by, more we're going to lose in our conscious. until we get to the point where we're born. So when you're first connected, we are more aware of what's going on. And then as time goes by, during the 9 months of pregnancy, we're going to slowly losing conscious. And it's almost like we live in a sleepy state. That's how the spirits go through. It's like we start sleeping and losing conscious until the birth is born. So the whole planning starts right here to be put in practice. And it finishes the incarnating when the baby is born. And then it's time to really see what's going to happen next. I just put something that I found interesting, and we're almost done. I think I'm going to be done a bit early. The Ministry of Reincarnation Planning. So that's a cartoon from what it is like from the other side. It's hard for us to picture that in our mind. In the book that André Luiz has on the what was the book I said? Then of Light. Missionaries of Light. It talks a lot about these. André Luiz goes to a room where they have prototypes of a physical body. So the same way that when we're in the first stage of evolution and you're going to incarnate, and sometimes we don't even plan much, we don't know what's going on, the planning is minimum. Lots brought up to us through genetic. But can you imagine what evolved for Jesus to come? Or someone that's going to transform a part of the society or a country? It's more people involved. So the more elevated you are, when you have to come here, more is given to you. Like Allan Kardec, I'm sure it was a whole lot of meetings for him to be here with us one day. And this is sort of a picture that kind of tells what's evolved in all these. We have so much to understand about life still. We're so behind. It's hard for us to see things like that happening. If you go to a science lab here, it's not even close to that. Right? And yet it's kind of cool if you have a chance to go to a lab that studies and see the body, how it is inside, and all of that. So some people on the other side study a lot. They have the knowledge so far ahead of us. The business they talk, it's something that's like fiction for us. It's fascinating to imagine what it is like. And André Luiz gives us in the book a little taste of it. He, with a doctor's view, he is wowed by how much the spiritual side knows about science, that we're just a couple of steps going. So I thought it was cool to put the picture here. And to conclude, it's hard for us sometimes to get away with it's too much of fiction for us. I was in a meeting yesterday, and someone brought up a point. We should see ourselves in a different dimension. We're spiritists. Our perispirit is a projection of this, and the body is a second projection. But we're this, right? So when we focus on ourselves as being a spirit, I was talking to them. Remember when the Americas was being discovered? The indigenous people were here, right? Can you imagine those people that we have a collection, or even older? Let's go back, to the Egyptians, or some civilizations very old. Can you imagine if you got to them the time that Moses was born and said, if you give me whatever land you have, gold. I'll give you a little device that will make you be able to talk live with someone on the other side of the river. He would laugh at your face. What do you mean? Then you don't have to yell. Through this device, you're going to connect to them. Can you imagine for those people to be able to picture that happening and believing in that? That's us today. It's so much. Like the science happening in the spiritual world is so beyond what we can imagine. But it gives us hope that one day we're only going to think like that. That we are the spirit. And there's so much more. So let's all focus on the evolution. Let's focus on evolving, and one day we'll be able to capture all the science that's behind the spiritual incorporeal physical body. So I think that's the message of today. Let's take advantage of this opportunity we have here. Let's do our best, because there's so much more to. And let's continue going, because I want to get to the time where I'm going to be incarnating with that type of science. I don't know about you. So let's all keep on going and look to the side and look for someone that's doing the same as you're doing, because that's the right path. So when planning, we're going to plan a beautiful, easier life next time, until we don't have to plan so much troubles and difficulties for ourselves. That's the message of today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catarina. It was a great lecture. Any question, any comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Since we have especially the time, I'm gonna do something that's like out of the plan,
Okay.
right? And there are 2 points that I'd like to add to this great lecture and message that Catarina transmitted to us. So as you can see, not everything is planned.
It wasn't planned, I promise.
So one thing that I've been thinking while she was talking is that everything is planned, and we as spiritists many times, when we face some challenge, let's say I was born with a certain disease or with a certain condition, we try to think, oh, this happened because of a reason, which is true. But this reason belongs to God. As you know from Spiritism, as from the teachings of Christ, God is divine knowledge. God is superb intelligence, and knowledge that we as human beings don't know. So we can never know exactly when something happens. Why? Because the purpose of reincarnation, it's always our self-development. It's always something good. It's never a punishment. So one thing that I always try to be very aware is, sometimes we have a friend or we are through a situation and this person has a problem. And you say, you see, you have a problem because you did something in this other life. And this is something that's completely out of our control. All the message that Catarina gave, which is 100% true, serves a lot for us to do a self-evaluation of the situation that we are going through ourselves. Never to point out or judge someone else that might be through, because this is a trend, a tendency sometimes with spirits. You did that, and we don't know. Might be actually something that happened for the reason, and we pretend to know because we know exactly this process behind. And one other thing that I like to add is the free will. How important is free will? I remember the story about Paul of Tarsus, and for the first half of his life, he was persecuting Jews, right? He accomplished a very beautiful mission of founding Christians, of founding church, of spreading the message of Christ, and many of what we know about Christ is due to the great work of Paul. But for the first 30 years of his life, he was not in this path. So he had a great plan ahead, and he was not doing that because of his free will. He was not exercising his free will in what he should. So no matter what we have planned, we can always know that our free will plays a very big role and we can do things to actually execute and resonate yourself and follow this plan that we have for us. And to quote something that I heard yesterday, a very great speaker in the Florida Spiritist Congress, he was just telling about all these things that Catarina mentioned. Many times we feel a little bit tired. There are some days that it's hard, the way we go through our lives, so much planning, so it's overwhelming a little bit, right? We all have bodies, problems, and this sort of stuff. But we've reincarnated many times. So imagine if you love your mother, if you love your father, how many lives have it to come? And imagine the size of your spiritual family up there. You've had many mothers, you have a lot of people who love you and who really support you and who really wants the best for you. So we're never alone in this world to try to follow our mission, to actually try to do things. And if we keep that hope and that certainty in our heart that we are here to learn, and that all difficulties that we have in this reincarnation plan is actually to make us understand something, it can completely change our perspective of why we're living certain things and change our attitude to be grateful for the blessing that we have and living here. That's what I want to say.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's something I didn't say, how dangerous can be our free will, and also that we're really never alone. And sometimes we don't just have a mentor with us. We have our whole spiritual family that's still in the spiritual side, watching for us. Myself, I sometimes when I do something bad, I'm like, oh, I talk to someone and say, I'm sorry, I feel ashamed, because I know they're watching and they feel sorry for us when we do something bad. But they're there to support us too. So let's not forget that.
About free will, I wonder what was Hitler's planning? What was Stalin or these bad boys? What about do they have a chance to choose about a good life and about those miseries they have?
That's why he did that. It's because he thought, this is my only life. I'll do whatever I want. He had some inner characters that pushed him into it. For sure, he found people among him that was thinking exactly the same, and that's why we have to focus and come here to understand and see the real. Because if you don't, you can end up being like that. I can't tell what he did in the past to be like that, but for sure he didn't go to something good, and he was so hurt. And when he came through his next life, that's what he wanted to do. Focus only on something that's so negative. And right now, I'm sure he's still mentally disturbed by what he did, because a lot of energy was just sent back to him, and I'm for sure he's dealing with that right now. So for us, and that's what I said, the free will can be very dangerous too. We have to be careful with what's given.
I just wanted to say, in throughout time there are people just like Hitler, right? And they like
People what?
people just like Hitler. They're conquerors that take over land. Like Zen Great conquered almost all of Europe, right? But they keep conquer, and they're seen as conquerors, they're seen as heroes, but they take a lot of lives and they hurt a lot of people. Hitler, as much as what he did was horrible, we studied Hitler in school in the conflict between Germany and France. The conflict between Germany and France, that they were pitted, they were against each other for many years, and different wars that one won and the other one lost and the other one won. And it was really the core thing that really put Germany and France against each other, that whatever opportunity they could. But we studied it very specifically Hitler, and his mission was somewhat noble, because he was dedicated to helping the German people rise up, because they were, from the First World War, they were undermined by everyone else, and it put the country into a large recession, where it was the inflation of the German dollar, where they kept, because the inflation, they kept releasing more money, till their money became worthless. But what he did was he united the and he rebuilt the country and the infrastructure and buildings. And he actually built roads and jobs for thousands and thousands of people. In a way that their country is the way that it is today because of what he did. But saying that, there was also that negative influence of, wasn't just the war, it was the persecution against the Jews.
Yes, he for sure was a very smart, very powerful.
When we look back at his life, there was some evidence that he was unstable in his youth. He did have problems mentally.
For sure. For some,
things.
yeah.
And I as well, being pursuing the military and part of the position, part of this to a person, but this persecution of the Jews was so radical, right? You have to think that what could cause this? Because he did much more than that. He was trying to, he thought of them as a pure race. And maybe he was involved in past lives with conflicts between countries and politics between countries, that it brought this hate of the world.
Yes.
That he came back but he did accomplish many great things.
What I have to add to that, as I start saying, he for sure was very smart and very powerful. And he's an example of what we're capable of doing. Unfortunately, he used mostly to do negative things. And that's why it's so important we study the moral. That's why it's so important for us to evolve. Because if we connect to the moral side of life, having a perspective of reincarnation, we will never do something like that. What he did, he could have done 10 times more, 100% in a good way, not just with roads. And people suffered beyond too much. I know some people that lived through the war in Germany, and they couldn't care less about the roads and the sophisticated city that Germany is right now. That's material things. They care about the suffering, what their family had to go to, being spread out, having children living in one side of the country, having to kill people because he told to do so. So whatever he accomplished was because he was very smart. But we have two wings. We have to build the moral side too. We have to be smart as he was and build the moral, because you're going to make amazing things here. But the moral side was very lacking, and that's what we have to keep on going. Otherwise, by the time that planet Earth is very developed scientifically, we're all going to be doing maybe what he did. Let's focus on the moral right now, so we don't do what he did. I think Joe wants to say.
Catarina, thank you very much for your lecture. It was very good. One thing that we need to walk away here is no spirit comes to Earth with an evil mission. Every mission is one of goodness and is focused on their or our individual evolution. Every act of evil, and we define evil as any time we break the divine laws, every one of those acts is because of our free will. It is our mistake of not knowing, understanding, or having the courage to follow our mission.
Great addition. That's exactly it. We're not in a level as a country, but as a planet, but we're going to get there. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry, there is an internet thing.
Yes, an internet question. We have Nadia and Evie. Thank you and the TSS for the great lecture. And also have a question from Nadia. Some people research ancestor to create a family tree. What is the view of Spiritism regarding family tree? In the view of Spiritism, is family tree important? Why?
I think anything we wanted to discover is important. You just have to have, again, a moral side. I'm not against past life regression, but are you able to really understand? There is a reason why we forget. So family tree, if it's gonna, anything you do can add positive things to you. So if you like history, you study the past. If you want to know Maybe you're going to look at a grandparent of yours, a great grandparent. Maybe that was you. So if you're looking into it as a perspective of like, who am I? What's happening here that I'm at this family today? I don't know if anyone has anything to do. I don't see any.
Yeah, there is a passage on a chapter on the Gospel according to Spiritism that talks exactly about it, and it says that it's depending on how you see the family tree. You know, if you see that as a proud thing, you know, my grandfather was this person, that's why I deserve this, and that. Now that's not important, right? But if you have a great grandparent that you know, they were very nice people, and you like to take that as an example. Yeah, look to those family tree and you know, take that as something positive.
Learning about yourself.
To learn about yourself and what the path you got to go to. Alex, I know they have a comment. I want to ask you to hold that, and we can discuss at the end. We need to go to our passes. I want to thank you, Catarina,
Thank you for
the lecture. And we're going to get prepared for the passes now. And then just